At long last, Nick Diaz has arrived. Nick, what's happening, buddy?
Yo, how's it going?
Man, did you have a bike stolen that cost $50,000?
I thought we weren't going to talk about me. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, no, I did. It was actually a little while ago. I was out of town. Or actually, yeah, I might have actually been in town. It could have been sort of an inside job. I'm not sure. I always, in between these fights, I've always had a whole bunch of different kinds of crazy stuff going on.
All I have to know, yeah, I got to know is how do you even pay 50?
Smart and fucking and jumped in and swooped that thing real quick. I mean, it weighs 2 pounds, so.
But it's not motorized, correct? This is like a bike you use for your triathlons.
Yeah, it's a really high-end, specialized S-Works, and it's got like electric shifters. I did a couple races on it, and I use another bike for most of my training, or I go out on the road bike with the guys a lot of the time, from Delta Velo and Michael David in Stockton, and so that thing's gone. I had to kiss that thing goodbye. I was like, okay, it's. I thought it was like hiding under the couch or something, but it was somebody got smart and probably snatched that thing up and stuck it on eBay for probably a quarter of what it's worth. But so that sucks. It's funny. I follow Specialized on Instagram. I can't get no follows back by any sort of triathlon companies or anything like that. But they really like to stick to their actual true pro triathlete athletes. They're not really trying to branch out into MMA or anything like that.
Well, I don't think they need to if they're getting somebody to pay $50,000 for a bike. I mean, you don't have to sell very many bikes over the course of the year to turn a profit.
Yeah, I didn't really understand what you said right there, but it's for, I've never got really small. I've never got anything at cost or anything like that. I've always had to pay just about full price, and I didn't have a lot of time to to decide whether or not I want to wait for something like that. And it was this like lately is the only time where I'm thinking like, okay, maybe nowadays I might be able to get someone to hook me up with a bike, maybe at cost, or sponsor me and give me some equipment or product or something like that. But, I didn't want to, I don't want to wait for it. It's time to, sometimes it's time to, just jump in there and race. And I'm like, okay, like just freaking, I need a bike now. So I bought at least 4, about 4, maybe 5, $7,000 to $10,000 bikes throughout, some people buy nice cars. I'm like, I bought a bunch of bikes. One actually came off the back. I had someone load it for me. One came off the back on a freeway. That's the saddest story ever. This Trek mountain bike that I got. I used to ride Trek, but it wasn't the right bike for me anyway. So in a way, it was kind of good, but of course, it costed me a lot of money. I could have sold that thing. And then I started riding Specialized. I really like Specialized, but it's a lot harder to get like a deal on Specialized versus a lot of other bikes out there. But of course, I like riding Specialized. They have some really nice stuff.
So listen, Nick, your brother Nate fought over the weekend. He looked awesome, big win, man. That Michael Johnson's a tough son of a bitch, and Nate really looked great. But look, the numbers came out today. It said he was paid 20 and 20. Is that a misprint? I think is that a misprint?
No, man. That's and I didn't have a lot to do with that either. I didn't understand like what. His last bunch of fights, I don't know why he took any of them. I would have quit. I told him, I was like, I didn't really tell him. I wanted to, kind of just figure out the ins and outs of everything, and I didn't understand it. I'm like, wait a minute, you're fighting for what? Yeah, and I just didn't, we've had like a little bit of a lack of communication over this last year or so, just on account of, we're both grown up now. He's got a pretty tight home situation, you know what I mean? And I don't like to get involved with that or screw with anything, and tell him what to do because, he's his own man. He's grown up. But on the downside of that, see me, I've been making my rounds around, you don't ever get out of Stockton. It's like, it's crazy. It's like toxic. There's nobody doing anything out there. There's nobody making any money. There's nobody to talk to and nobody comes to you out there. I mean, I'm in Las Vegas for a week and I meet like people from all over the world. And then next thing you know, I'm all over the world. People are flying me here and there. And now I see why I was complaining so much. I never get anything. I didn't know anybody, I didn't talk to anybody, and there was nobody to tell me or explain to me how things work. So I had to do all this myself, all these fights, and work my way up. And I used to get paid nothing too. I did my first fight 2-2, 4-4, 6-6, 8-8. I went all the way up before I I was like, I'm going to be a pro boxer. I'm like, I can win. I was going to fight Jeff Lacey. That's how I got the contract, of pay-per-view. I started getting a pay-per-view percentage into my paydays because, they had to, because I was going to go and fight for millions of dollars in boxing. And I would have won, too. I put in better days with some top level, I put in better days with Andre Ward than probably a lot of the guys he's even fought. So I'm just saying, like, I've had the experience. I have the, I know my way around a boxing gym. I'm about the only one in the sport, there's some people that are really skillful. I like to say, like, I'll drop names even. Like, I like the way Frankie Edgar's understanding. I like Masvidal's understanding. KJ Noon's, of course, he's a pro boxer. But so the thing is, a lot of these kickboxers, they throw their punches all awkward and they're not tight. Like, look at the Aldo. He got hit. He's swinging wild out there, throwing looping punches at a guy who I was betting. I called that fight. I'm like, he's going to go straight down the middle, just like I would, and it's going to, with nice tight punches. You see, he works in a boxing ring. He works with headgear, and he puts his shoes on. You have these guys like, they don't know the way around a boxing gym. They don't have any. There's nobody that's in tune with the boxing community. You see, no offense, I like Rocco, but you see him walking in there, he'll go spar guys in a boxing gym with no shoes. And to me, that's really embarrassing. It's embarrassing, and the people in the gym are embarrassed for you. These guys they don't even pay no attention to MMA. They have no clue. They don't understand why these, it's just completely crazy. And the stance is completely, that's why everybody's like complaining about how we don't check kicks. I'm like, well, I'm not going to come out of my stance so I get knocked out. So yeah, you kick that leg all you want. You better be good at kicking I will check a kick too. So it's like, you got to watch out. But yeah, everybody's like, oh, he's heavy on that front leg. And it's like, well, he understands what he's working with here. And so as far as kickboxing versus boxing, the thing is, these kickboxers out there, they know they're going to kick a boxer. Kick him right in the head or kick him right in the leg or grab him with a Muay Thai clinch. I'm like, of course you can. But then once you learn how to defend a kick and you understand how to break out of a clinch and, it's like you got to get back to a fundamental, you need to become reestablish your fundamentals when it comes to, boxing and the way that you throw your punches. And see, when I train my boxing, when I train my punches, I throw every punch correctly. Like my trainer's going to tell me, whoa, not like that, like this. He's going to tell you to throw it right, so that you're, you throw the punch, you're protected at the same time. So it's not, but the thing is, the kickboxers don't have no concept of that. So that's what happens, I think, to a lot of these guys. Like, for instance, when Hendricks was knocking out all those guys, they were all kickboxing with kickboxing coaches, and they had no experience. If they had done one day of some of the sparring I got, they would get stopped in 2 rounds by some of these boxers. I'm like, well, yeah, because I can't grab on and I can't kick. Well, yeah, no shit. Maybe you should learn how to punch so that you can stand your ground in there against somebody who can punch. That way, when you go fight in the UFC, you don't just get knocked the fuck out. But that's what I see. And a lot of those guys came out standing upright. Then he fights a guy. Then he goes in there and he fights Lawler. Lawler's a lot shorter than he is, and Lawler's got some actual, he's got some actual ability when it comes to boxing.
Yeah,
but he's been around for a long time.
He's got some power.
People looked at him like he was,
All right, so let's back up on Nate, because I'm not the only one to notice this. I mean, this is what all the internets are talking about. Nate's pay came out that he was 20-20. I don't even know what to ask you right now. I don't even know what to say.
It makes me sick. It makes me sick what I get paid. It makes me sick of what I have done in the past. And then when you see this guy come out and do really well, and it drives you crazy. Of course, I'm not going to jump out of line and say anything. I'm not planning on moving down to 145. However, if you were to get that, I don't want to jump ahead and say what I was about to say, but I've already fought at 3 weights before. I can do all 3 of those weights. Don't try to, it's not like you're trying to do something no one's done before. I mean, I didn't hold a title at those weights, but there's a lot behind that. It's not just, I never had any. I'm doing 4-4 and 2-2 and 8-8. I'm like, yeah, no shit. I'm like, it's not like, and I'm doing 3 to 5. Me and him, we're doing 3 to 5 fights a year. 3 to 5 fights a year. 17 years later, 37 some fights later. After a while, you realize there's more to life. You sit down. You have a drink, you get out of town, and you come to some understandings, and I think that's really important, and that's not the kind of thing that's going to happen to a guy that's coming out of Stockton, California, making 2-2 and 4-4 and 8-8. That's just not, it doesn't happen. So it took me a long time before I finally became established to where I could actually get out of my comfort zone and leave. The way I looked at it is I'm retired. I'm like, before I, started to learn anything. And when you come out of the gym there's not a time in my life where I did not have to put a workout in for the day. And after a workout, I become very militant during any sort of training session, and then come after, I'm still kind of a crazy person. I'm not easy to talk to, nothing. I notice it. I go and I try to hang out, and people asking me, they're like, "What's wrong?" Like I had a training day. I was in Las Vegas, right? And I had a training day, and I go out, and Dillashaw's there, and a bunch of people are there. And everybody's like, "Oh, hey, like what's going on?" I'm like, "Whoa!" I'm like, people are like, what's wrong? And I'm like, nothing. Quit asking me what's wrong. I'm still thinking about like what I just went through, and all these things that I was going over with my brother, that night. It just doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop until you stop, and then once you stop, then you sit down and you just kind of come out of it. But it takes a minute, and I never had that minute because I haven't had a one break my entire life. And same thing with him, you'll notice, like he's just, he's stuck in he's stuck in the Stone Age back there. But I'm trying to help him, bring him to some understandings. It's a quick fix though, as far as I'm concerned. And they really sell him short, and they really both of us. But as far as the 20 and 20, and these guys are laughing or like thinking it's a joke. I'm like, no, dude, that's what he gets paid. I watched Rogan's podcast recently. And, it's just that some of the stuff's kind of funny in there. I mean, I like what they're saying. Those guys are hilarious. But, I mean, if, like, for instance, if my brother's trying to fight somebody, he's not going to punch him in the face. I'm like, come on, he's not going to show up at the guy's door, like, when he's on his way to breakfast. I'm like, no, the fight's already signed. Fight's already happened. Have I ever punched anybody that I wanted to punch before? It's like, it's not going to happen. However, I'm like, if this guy, he doesn't want to acknowledge what my brother said out there, it's like, in my opinion, that's a huge insult. It's like, hey, fuck you. Who are you? I'm like, who the fuck are you? I'm like, who the fuck are you? And it's, you know what I mean? It's like the way I see it, I'm like, you need to get punked out. We're all here, planet Earth, walking around. We got to be at the same places. It's gonna have, you want to get punked out in front of all your fans. I mean, like my brother's fighting for 20 and 20. It's like, you know what I mean? I think it doesn't really matter to him. You know what I mean? If he's doing a free fight out there over this kind of thing pisses you off, and it becomes a real, fight, on the outs.
Now, Nick, I haven't heard the Joe Rogan show yet. What did they say on Joe Rogan that?
They didn't say, they didn't come off out of line or anything like that. It's just like a few things. I'm just like, for instance, my brother, how would this work out? Like my brother's going to hit him or something before the fight happens. Somebody could definitely get slapped up. But you know what I mean? And that could easily go both ways, but it's not. I mean, like Conor's on the show, fighting back and forth with those guys too, and you don't see anything really happen. But things could happen, but they probably would happen on the outs, and they would happen on account of of nobody acknowledging the fact that of what's what. It's like, okay, like this, that never happened. I'm like, yeah, it happened. You can't lie to the fans. The fans know what they want to see. I know what they want to see. It's just, there's not much to be said about this. It's the fight. As far as I'm concerned, it's a fight that probably needs to hapen.
Are you talking about Nate versus Conor needs to happen? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, or, you acknowledge this whole situation in one way or another. And I know it's the holidays. It's not like everybody's trying to jump on a podcast like I'm doing right now. But I mean, but I just figure, it is what it is. I mean, like you can't. My brother's definitely relevant. You can't just act like he's irrelevant. So this fight should probably happen as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they got these other guys that aren't very popular, even though they're holding the belt. So it's like, that's as far as I'm concerned, the belt's not important. It's the fights that are important. The money fights, the fans are important to the show. That means that's more money for everybody. those are the numbers. That's more money for everybody.
You're definitely right.
So.
Now, Nate had done an interview after the post-fight press conference with Errol Hawani, and he said that he was expecting the Conor fight. Is there any talk of that, or he's just saying he wants the Conor fight?
Hey, I think Conor was saying that he wanted the fight too before, one time on account of somebody pulling out because they were hurt. I think he was asking for the fight too. So, give him what he wants. And he wants to move up. I'm like, do you want to fight that you want to fight the Dos Anjos? Another thing is, when my brother did those fights, a lot of people, things get really misconstrued on account of a couple of fights my brother did. First of all, I want to talk about the Thompson fight. I wasn't there for him, and a lot of that was my bad. But I had to make ends meet myself. Like I said, I was in the middle of coming to a lot of these understandings that I've come to in the last year or two. I got my partner Martin Sano. He's really good. He's 13-1, one controversial loss. And nobody's looking at this guy, picking him up. They don't want him in the UFC or something. I'm like, wait, I don't understand why nobody is taking notice of this guy. He's knocking people out. He beat one of Jackson's top guys or whatever, prospect that was supposed to go to the UFC. And then when Junior beats him, no one's talking about him. But I don't mean to fly off subject, but, what was I saying here?
You were talking about whether or not Nate would be fighting Conor, and then you were saying that some of his previous fights were misconstrued, and you were talking about the Josh Thompson fight.
That's right. Yeah, the Thompson stuff. The Thompson 2 fights, right? So you have the Thompson. First of all, they've never got along. My brother's really, really, really mad. During that fight. A lot of times in that fight, I'd say that Thompson was also close to getting finished too. And any point in time in that fight, if my brother was if my brother was doing a little more trying to survive in that fight. Instead of, rushing in and trying to just demolish this guy who he really can't stand, especially at the time. I think that those were a lot of his issues, and me not being around for his training camp for that fight, I think was a lot of his issues too. There's a lot of things I see from the outside. Same with him. He's got to be, he's always around for me. And then I let him down there for that fight, and I let him down for the DeSantos fight, and then the when he fought Henderson too. There's something weird with that fight. I couldn't really understand. He was actually in pretty good shape, I think, for that fight, and none of us saw any of that coming. Henderson actually amounted. I'm actually pretty impressed with that guy. They fighting at 170 and everything like that. That's pretty crazy. At first I want to just go this guy's got to be on steroids. I'm pretty convinced about everybody is on steroids. I mean. Everybody. I'm the only one, and me and my brother, a few guys, I don't think Frankie's on steroids, but these guys a lot of them they're on steroids, and that stuff messes with the chemicals in your head. That's why they get a little weird act to them. They hang out with, I don't know, whatever. I'm just talking shit on everybody right now because as far as I'm concerned, everybody's on steroids. George St. Pierre was on steroids when I fought him. The guy, and you know what, somehow that it's not news. I put this out there. Somehow it's not news. This guy didn't make weight. He missed weight by 3 pounds or more. When I fought him, it's like 1 pound allowance. It's not even a 1 pound allowance during a title fight. So that fight shouldn't have been a title fight, and I should have got an immediate rematch.
Nick, George missed weight. Why do you say that,
bro? He missed fucking weight. He fucking missed weight. He didn't make weight. How is that not news?
I didn't know about this.
News. That's not.
Start from the beginning.
No, Michelle Hamilton come up to me, and that's why they wanted that fight over there. That's why they wanted that fight over there, so he could fucking cheat. I would have knocked that motherfucker out. He's not as good as me. There's no way that guy is as good as I am. There's fucking no way. He's strong. Held on the whole fight. And in Pride FC and real rules and real fights, that's not you. You fucking didn't fight the whole fight. I'm over here trying to fight. Neither of us are fighting now because you fucking holding on to my leg, holding on to me around the waist the whole fight. And any time you're not, you're getting punched up. So. He didn't make weight, and then also they didn't test us because I would have tested positive for sure on that fight. I thought it was my last fight ever. What do I care? It's not enough to, it's like almost asking too much to win and not give away that fine. I'm like, what do I care about the fine? You know what I mean? It's like when a guy come in wearing all sorts of funny colors and stuff like that, fighting me in Stockton, California, and coming out to fight me in Stockton, California, wearing funny colors. It's not enough to just come out and beat me. No, you're going to talk shit to me. You're going to wear funny colors, and I'm going to beat you up. I don't even want to shake hands after the fight. That's one thing I really regret too is I never got a chance to. I grew up a little mature a little bit. And I wanted to. I want to apologize to that guy. Thomas Denny.
Yeah.
here I am. I beat him up in front of his family, and you know, I gave him all sorts of fuck yous and like all sorts of I don't give a fucks. And it's just, you know, I feel bad about that now. You know, and if I could see him face, you know, I even wrote him a direct message one time. I never got a response, but you know, I'd like to apologize. I don't know if he's listening to this or if he does. I apologize for, you know, I understand now. He had to build his, you know, he's trying to build a big fight. I don't think it was worth it. I don't, you know, really, because I doubt he was getting paid that much, and none of us were back then. But, you know, that's so I didn't mean to fall off subject there either, but I've got a lot of stuff I've been wanting to get off, especially that George St. Pierre stuff. That's ridiculous. That dude needs to come back, give me another fight, as far as I'm concerned, as long as I can fight. But
stay on the weight for me just for a second.
They did not test him for steroids in that fight. They didn't test us. So it was like I pissed into like a film case. You know, you ever seen a film case, like an old school, you know, roll film?
Yeah, with a little cap on it. Yes.
I literally pissed into a film case, and they popped the top and put a piece of Scotch tape over it, and wrote my fucking name on it, and set it in the little box with everybody's specimen, everybody's piss right there, little film cases, little tape over it. It's not like when I was fighting in California, the whole WADA thing comes in or whatever, and it's like they give you this plastic case. And then they pour the piss into that case, and then they twist it and lock it up somehow, right? So you can't open it. They have to put it in a machine that opens it. So you can't open it. And they say, here, try to open that. And then they slice like 3 parts in the tape, and then they put it over the top. So you can't peel that off and change the names or do anything like that. So you know the fight out, they didn't test nobody for no steroids. They didn't test nobody for any smoking weed out there in Canada, and they didn't make him. He didn't have to make weight. I should get another fight just by default on account of him not 3 pounds over. And then I really fucked up by not walking up to the scale and looking at actually how much over he was, because he could have been 7 pounds over. You know, I don't fucking know. I mean, they're in Canada. It's their beloved George St. Pierre. It's like, okay, so that that's what happened there. So, you know, you get a lot of guys like you wonder about the what's his name, the guy my brother fought for the title, because it just didn't. A lot of things didn't make sense to me in that fight. How he was, you know, I'm like, if I had that leg lock, like I'm a lot better at finishing when it comes to a leg submission. I'll break. I don't go for it because I'm not desperate to jump on somebody and try to take them down and tap them out. I'm like, I'll stand in front of you. You know, I'm like, throw something, motherfucker. You know, it's like. I don't need to. I don't have to win like that. And, you know, the one time I was chasing KJ Noons down like that, why? Because everybody was telling me, I was buying into everybody's hype. It was like, okay, no, just take him down. You got him. Just take him down. And everybody's like, yeah, man, you got this. Just take him down. I'm like, just take him down. Why am I working on my boxing? So in that fight, I had better boxing. You can see that I wore on that dude after the first round. I was going to beat him. They stopped the fight. I had a little bit of blood in my eye. I had a few cuts. But you know what? Like, they shouldn't have stopped. There's no way in the UFC they would have stopped that fight. They would stop that fight because there were some weird doctors out in Texas. It was Corpus Christi. It's probably the first time they ever had a fight out there. That doctor was freaking out. He stopped the fight, and I won that round. I was going to win. The guy had nothing left. I look across the cage. He's panicking. He's freaking out. He had to cut too much weight back then. I don't think he was. You know, he wasn't as capable of doing that back then. It's easier for everybody when they get older. You know, going up in weight, going down in weight. You have a little more understanding of how your body works. But so, yeah, I became frustrated in that fight, and he was here and diving, chasing this dude for a takedown. You know, so that kind of thing happens. But so, you know, anyways, what I was saying about my brother was what I was saying about my brother is, you know, he fought that dude. That guy was probably on steroids, too, as far as I'm concerned. There's something weird about that fight. And not to make all the excuses, but that's just the facts that, you know, that's what I see, you know. And then as far as the RDH fight, he was fucking hurt, man. He had to take a week off for his 3 last weeks of training, like the week in between there. He took the whole week off. I'm going like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, he's hurt. He's going to see a therapist, fixes, you know, trying to, you know. So and then it's crazy because sometimes I'm like, how the hell you not do what I do? I'm like, can you get out there and you go, you ride fucking 3 miles, you run 5 or 6 miles. This is what you have to do. You know, it's not like a question. It's like, this is what you do, you know. And I wasn't telling him to do that. This fight around, I told him, I'm like, listen, this is what we need to do. This is how we get shit done, all right? This is how you are going to do it. You know, I'd want to hear the same thing from him. And he'll tell me. And so I tell him, and look, he goes in there fucking, you know, all ripped to shreds, looking perfect. And another thing is, too, is he wasn't doing 3 fights a year. And they jammed that fight right up in your face. Same thing with the fights I was doing. Any of those fights I was doing that I lost a close decision, it was like, I didn't get 3 months of training and all of what one does. Before these guys fight 2 times a year. My brother, I'm talking 3 to 5 fights a year. So if you're cutting all the way down to 155 from like 185 to 190, like you're gonna one of those 3 times out of the year you're gonna fall short. And that's usually the case with him. Nobody's ever treated him like a champion, like the draw that he is. I'm like, he sells all those shows. They put him on an undercard of somebody who's not popular, and then he sells the whole fucking show, and then those guys take home the pay-per-view. That's insane. That's I will never do that. I'm the fucking main event. I'm who people want to see. Otherwise, I have fucking 100 people coming up to me a day. I can't walk down the street. You know what I mean? Don't tell me I'm not important. You know what I mean? So same thing with him. I'm like, sometimes he might as well be me. They think he's me. They think I'm him. They call me Nate. They call him Nick. So that's and it's he could be. I just think that they should give him what he wants. And they should give the fans what they want, as far as I'm concerned.
Which is the McGregor fight, you're saying?
Yeah. Yep. I'm like, I don't mean to make all these excuses for him, but I was there. Like, that's what happened in those 3 fights that he fell short. And I honestly do believe that he can win any of those 3 fights. With the right preparation, he can win any of those 3 fights.
Sure.
But yeah, he's really good. These fucking guys are not as good as him. And I it's almost like I don't like to predict fights or say what will or won't happen, but it's the way it looks to me is like a really hard matchup for anybody right now with my brother. He's matured into a really solid understanding of what he needs to do and how he needs to do it and what's what. And so have I. So anything that's not, working the way it should, I'm going to point out and I'm going to put, I'm going to put a correction and tweak that until it's the way that it needs to be. So that's a whole new thing nowadays for the 2 of us. So me and him, me, myself, and him.
Cool.
So, I just
tell me this just so we can put a pin on this. Is Nate's contract? How many fights does he have left on his contract before he goes in to renegotiate?
I don't know. I don't know, and I don't care about a contract and all that. That's why I got. It's too much for me to look into that. A lot of times, it stresses me out. Like my deal. I don't know a lot about my deal. I have to ask. People are like, "What about your contract?" I'm like, you know what? At the time, I really didn't want to take the time to try and understand it. I'm stressed out, focused on a fight, and I've got people, closing this deal for me. I'm not the one to know about it, and I didn't want to know about it. Now I have a little more patience to sit down and wrap my head around like how my contract works and what actually holds up and what doesn't. And in my opinion, it doesn't really matter what's on his contract. It matters what the fans want to see. It matters, these guys want to make money too. I want to make money. They want to make money. The fans want to see the right fight. They don't want to let the fans down. I doubt that they will. And they shouldn't. It's a joke if they do. So, we'll see what happens on with that. But, yeah, I don't know about his contract.
All right.
All I know is after the fact, I know what kind of money he was getting paid, and I don't care what's on a contract. I don't give a shit. I would have quit. I'd been like, fuck you. I'm not – what the fuck? I'm gonna buy a trailer and fucking live in a fucking trailer and grow some fucking garden in the backyard and try to – and try to be cool with it, like it's just what, I grew up around that my whole life. So what's it, it's not the end of the world. I'm like, there's people starving in some countries, I'm not going to cry while there is people starving in some countries. So, however, I will, bitch and complain about certain fighters, getting more than what they deserve. And it's just a joke, all of a sudden you have this one guy who gets everything. I'm like, that's great. I'm happy for him. I don't like to be a hater. I'm not in any way any type of hater, but let's be real here. Let's give the fans a fight that people want to see. That's all I have to say about that. So I'm gonna try to get off of this call here.
You've done great, buddy. Go, and I hope you find your bike.
Right on. Thank you.
All right, Merry Christmas, pal. All right. I mean, when you get Nick Diaz on the line, you just let him go. I don't even know how to respond to some of that stuff. George St. Pierre did not make weight. I haven't even heard that rumor. I've never heard him mention that before, or anybody else. And as far as Nate goes, I would like to see him get a new contract. I mean, contracts mean something. You sign it, but there's no way to make believe that Nate Diaz has not outgrown that deal. He is a very popular fighter. He's very in demand. He really is. I don't know if he's going to get that Conor fight. I don't think so. I know they were talking about Conor going up and fighting Dos Anjos, the winner of Dos Anjos and Cerrone, which makes it Dos Anjos. I think that's going to happen. I think they are going to pursue that, and that's who he's going to fight. I don't know where Nate fits into the mix, but if you want to have some fun, I'll watch that fight. I'll watch that fight all day long.